to Roots and Roofs, where we explore the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship in the real estate world. I am your host, Mackenzie Shelton. Join us as we dive into the unique journey of balancing family life with owning a thriving real estate business. Each episode, we will uncover inspiring stories, practical tips, mindset conversations, and expert insights from others who are carving their paths in the real estate industry. Whether you are a seasoned realtor, a prospective buyer, or simply curious about the dynamics of managing both home and career, Roots and Roofs is your go-to podcast for heartfelt discussions and invaluable advice. Tune in and discover how these incredible women are building deep roots from the ground up while nurturing their families under the same roof. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Roots and Roofs. I have a really special guest with me today. This is Jessica Hensley, and she is a really awesome real estate agent in the Midwest area. Jessica, why don't we just kind of start from the beginning? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what inspired you to get into real estate, and we can kind of just go from there.
Okay. So I am a realtor in Southeast Kansas and Northeast Oklahoma. And I got licensed in '03 when I was going to college at OSU. My dad actually enrolled in a real estate class. He couldn't finish, so he transferred it to me. There were some things that happened, which might be too deep for this podcast right now. But anyway, he's like, "Hey, do you want to take this class that I can't take now?" I'm like, "Sure." So I was 18, and that summer before starting college, I got my license and sold real estate in Stillwater while I was going to college, and then got married. And my ex-husband now, but he's from Independence, and so he moved us here, and been here ever since. So I guess we moved here January of '05. So.
Okay. Wow.
Mhm.
So you've been licensed for over 20 years then, correct?
Yeah, 22 years in August.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is so awesome. So
Yeah.
you've kind of seen like literally pretty much every market that
Yes.
that exists out there. Um, Kind of just a side question, like what is your favorite? Is it a buyer's market or is it a seller's market? What do you like better?
I like seller's market because I have always been great at getting listings and carrying a lot of listings. So it's less work for me, and it's a quicker turnaround. But I say that so because of the location I'm in, we didn't have quite the shortage of inventory like a lot of other people did in the country. So we did have multiple offers, but it was still, maybe 5 offers that would happen over a weekend. And so there was still sort of time to find a buyer a house. And anyway, so I feel like it's a little bit more balanced here, and it's not crazy expensive. We weren't going 100,000 over asking. So
Yeah.
for my market, I like seller's market. Yeah.
Sure, sure. That is a good point to point out because I was thinking to myself, I was like, man, I'm in the which we're still not, what the coasts are, but I'm in the Omaha, Nebraska, Southwest Iowa
Oh,
area.
yeah. Yeah.
And I will say, so I got licensed in 2014. So I've been licensed for 11 years now. And I think I prefer a buyer's market now that I've kind of been through a few different ones. Mostly just because in our sellers markets, we were getting, 10 plus offers on every single house. And I felt like people were being forced to kind of overpay for things and, some of that stuff. And it was just kind of like, I don't know if I love the vibe that, clients are having to kind of deal with and stuff like that. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
interesting.
It
Very,
can,
very interesting perspective from two very different areas. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, because when
okay.
I first got licensed in '03, anybody could get a loan. It was pretty easy. And I mean, I didn't have a frame of reference from before then. So for me, entering the market as an 18-year-old, I was able to sell some houses. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. Um, and then when we moved, I didn't have a base here. I didn't have friends and family because all of my family lives in Stillwater. So I had a really big church I was part of. like I said, grandparents, aunts, uncles. We had a really good network there. So I sort of had a built-in client base that they were like, yeah, we'll give you a shot. And then we moved here. Nobody knew me. It's 1,200 people is the town I moved to, which is Caney, Kansas. And so I took a job I pretty much everywhere, like at the grocery store, the nursing home, the daycare, anywhere I could work, and eventually landed at the bank. So I was a full-time teller, and then decided I got the courage up to sell real estate full time in like August or something like that of '07. And so if you know what happened next, that was probably not the best time to get to full-time real estate. And at first it was good, and then we couldn't even give a house away. It was
Hmm.
pretty tough here. Things were sitting on the market. I was taking listings for a year at a time because that was, I mean, kind of normal. So yeah, so I got
Wow.
back. I was trying to be full-time, and then I went back to work at Arvest in '09. So I started all of '08 I tried, but it was not doing great. So in January I went back to Arvest, but this time as a financial advisor. So I got my Series 7 and my 66 and was getting to know like that investment, which is also funny because I think I got my actual license in March of '09, and it was like the Dow was trading at like 8,000 or something. And so it was like the lowest of the low that it could go, but it could only go up from there. So
Yeah, there you
anyway,
go.
that's part of my story. So
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. I've obviously I've been on your podcast. I've gotten to kind of
yeah,
know you a little bit.
yeah,
And I did not know that you were a financial advisor at one point. So that's honestly one of the reasons that I love doing this podcast is because I just get to learn more and more things about people that I even already know. So that's very
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Okay, so let's kind of get into some of the questions here. So I know at one point you were running a pretty traditional team model structure, and you are not anymore. So at what point did you kind of realize that that structure wasn't really working for you anymore? And how did you kind of make a shift, to the micro team model that you have now?
So in 2015, 2014, my broker passed away that I had been working for 11 years in this area. And I was like, what am I going to do? Where do I want to go? Where do I want to move my license? And I looked around and I just didn't find a company that I felt was in alignment. And so Cody, my husband at that time, was like, why don't we just open our own brokerage? So I'm like, all right, but I've been doing other things. So I also got my insurance license in 11. I did insurance from 11 to well, I had my license for a long time, but full time 11 to 15. And I'm like, well, I don't have a track record of success in real estate. Are you sure you want to open a brokerage? Because I don't even think I sold a house in 14. And he's like, I think you can do it. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. So anyway, I bought the building that my old broker was in, and we just went all in January of 2015. And that year I sold 76 homes. And I had a 2.5-year-old, and actually that year I wasn't even home the whole time. He had gotten a job and had to be in training in Texas for 3 months. And so we went with him. And so it's just kind of crazy. I came home on the weekends, and that's when I sold. I had an assistant. So it was a brokerage. So, anytime you start having some success, you have people that come to you, hey, I'd like to get my real estate license. And I had no training, no coaching. I was just like, yeah, come on. And so I just had my brokerage grew. I think I had like 12 or 13 agents. I had no clue what I was doing, no clue. And I had a little success that year, and I'm like kind of feeling big, right? I was the number one agent, number one solo agent. And so that was fun, but I didn't have a process. I didn't have proper training. I was a brokerage. I was responsible for these agents. started getting audited, which, you get audited anytime you're a broker. So that wasn't like a target at me, but, I got fines because things weren't done right. And I mean, nothing unethical, just like, oh, you didn't mark this box kind of thing. And then I did have one agent that she let her license lapse and I didn't catch it. And so she operated for a month. Yeah. And that was not good. And that's what scared me. I was like, I do not want to be responsible for these people. I don't have enough processes in place. So I think that was a turning point for me. And so we joined Keller Williams as a mega agent office and I became a team. And so going from a brokerage to a team, when you've hired these agents on a broker model, is not easy, right? They definitely wanted to do their own thing. They wanted that independence. That's how it is with the brokerage. But now I'm trying to transition to no, we're a team. Like, let's be together. Let's be unified. We're all working towards the same goal. So I started, trying to hold them accountable, and it didn't go great. So I had 7 agents leave in one day and my assistant. And that was, I think, when I decided the traditional team model and the brokerage model isn't what I want to do, just because you train, 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 invest, 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 and then your business can be stripped away from you at any point. You don't have control over your business. And not that you have control over anything in your life, really, but I felt like I had more control with the micro team model.
Sure, absolutely. So, can you kind of explain and maybe just walk through people who might not know what a micro team looks like? Who's on your team, what kind of roles do they play, and how have you kind of structured that to be beneficial not only for you but for the other people, on your team?
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember the year just so we have a continuous timeline. I moved my license to EXP in 2019. So I've been with
Okay.
EXP since 2019. And um I still had more of a traditional model where, these people were on my team, they gave me a split, they gave EXP a split. And that was okay, but I can continue to have attrition, people leave. And so I decided, you know what, I want to take control of my business. I have a good base here. I need to invest in my past clients, but I also don't want to do everything myself. So I had heard of Rocket Fuel. If you've read that book,
I
um,
have not. I
you
I
should read
should
it.
I should add that to my list. I've heard of it before.
It's a must read. It's a must read. So he talks about an integrator and a visionary, and that you kind of need both of those in any business. And so we actually went through, they call it EOS, Entrepreneur Operating System. We went through their coaching for Real Estate Mega Moms, which is our coaching group. And I was like learning, all right, this is how you manage people. This is how you have a proper org chart. This is how you have, clear defined roles and job descriptions. And I'm thinking, I can apply this to real estate. So that's how Micro Team was born. I really was getting a solution for a different business, for the coaching business. And then I decided, yeah, I can translate that over. So what is a micro team? A micro team is where you have one primary team lead that is bringing in the business. They're the name and face of the business. I know Keller Williams calls that a rainmaker. Um, but it's like, this is my business. And instead of hiring agents to help, and I'm not saying the people I hire aren't licensed, but instead of hiring like an independent contractor or an agent that's just going to learn and be mentored and then go off and leave, which is typically how it works. Um, I divided up the roles on my team and hired more employees. So the employee
Okay.
mentality and the independent contract mentality are two different modes, right? So an employee is
Absolutely.
happy to come clock in, clock out, do their tasks, get paid hourly. They value stability. And they value not having the risk of having to get the business.
Mm-hmm.
And so I decided that's who I'm going to surround myself with. Another way I think I've heard people call it is like the worker bees. I want to be surrounded, and there is value to those people, and there's no shame. You know what I mean? Like they're not less than, they just have a different set of goals and needs. And so yeah, so we have and I will say I went through a divorce this last year. I kind of took a step back from real estate. I did let go quite a few of my team members, and I'm gonna rebuild it. But the good thing is, processes are in place. It's not like I'm reinventing the wheel. It's just that's the cool thing about real estate, right? You can sort of pause and start.
Yes, absolutely.
But the way the model is, you have um, there are 4 departments in any business, not just real estate, any business. You have sales department. The sales department is responsible for getting business, so bringing and creating new opportunities. Or sorry, that's marketing. Marketing. Then yeah, marketing and sales. It's been a minute since I've explained this to people.
It's okay.
Yeah. And then you have, so that's marketing, and then sales is converting the opportunities into clients. So think marketing is, I'm posting on social media. I have like a maybe a funnel that people are giving me their information. So I've created this opportunity. Now the salesperson has to call that client or prospect, convert them from an opportunity to an actual client. So that's your listing appointment, your buyer agency appointment. And it could also be like an ISA type role where you're identifying, trying to convert those opportunities to clients or appointments. Then you have the operations department. So that's once you've signed them as a client, servicing and fulfilling your end of the deal. And then finance is a whole nother department, and I try to stay out of that. And finance is like, obviously bookkeeping, but it's like, let's stay out of jail. Um, so yeah, so what I did was I broke up every task that we do within our team, and I created job description for the marketing job description for sales, job description for operations, and I just started filling those needs with different team members. So that looks like marketing, client experience, because to me that's marketing, because you're taking care of your past clients or getting more opportunities as referrals. Sales department is typically where that lead agent or myself would sit, because I'm trying to book appointments. My team's trying to book me appointments. I go on the appointments and I convert them to clients. That's where I spend my time. That's the highest and best use of my time. I do operate in the negotiating seat as well, for the client, just because of experience. And then you have your operations. And so you're going to think like transaction coordinator. Our team, we also had a listing coordinator. And the listing coordinator is like putting the listing on the MLS and doing all the behind the scenes paperwork. Anything that doesn't have to do with converting that client, just fulfilling the other end of the deal, that's operations. Even showing houses is operations.
That's what one of my questions was going to be. So as a we can call it a rainmaker, team owner, whatever it is. That's always been kind of my biggest uh crutch is I have 4 kids. My husband and I run multiple businesses, and it's like, if I have even 3 or 4 very, very active buyers, like they are taking up the majority of my time, right? So I have done some things different than you, to kind of put some of those things in place. But that was going to be one of my questions is, are you the one out showing homes all the time, or are you, getting assistance for that?
I do have a showing agent, and my rule of thumb typically is if I'm available, I will show, and I also try to show like the first outing just to build that rapport. But
Hmm.
if I'm not available, then at least I have the showing agent. That's how I am right now. When I had my full-time showing agent, and like I was selling over 100 houses a year and everything was just crazy. I would introduce my showing agent in the very beginning to the buyer, and that way they knew. I would still show some, but for the most part, I was having my showing agent show for them. And the way I modeled my showing agent was, we're partners in this. She gets a percentage of the transaction. And I think I paid her mileage or maybe a price per door because,
Mhm.
not every buyer buys. And if she's going to take a lesser percentage, I didn't want her to get nothing for her time spent. So I paid her by the door plus percent. And but she was responsible for setting them up on a property, automatic property search, and then also manually looking for homes, and then she would send them to the client. So
So, just to kind of mirror that, that's actually very similar to what I have kind of set up. So I actually almost kind of run two models within my team. So I do have the more traditional where I have basically independent contractors that can go and do their own business, kind of, I don't want to say totally in their own way because we do have a lot of systems and processes and operations team in place to support those agents. And that's part of the reason that they're paying a split and, they're on a team and that sort of thing. But then I kind of ran. I guess if we're really talking about it, I guess I kind of am running a slight micro team model within our team where I have a full-time showing assistant that helps with, I would say, I mean, he helps with the majority of the showings, going to the inspections and doing the final walkthroughs. And then he actually even helps with my listings as well, where he's putting out the sign, the lockbox, if a contractor needs to be let in, picking up the sign and lockbox. So all of those things are kind of, and he gets a portion of that commission based on whether it's a buyer or seller. Listings really, you're probably not having to spend as much time as you would with a buyer. And then he also gets paid a gas stipend as well to make sure that, his time is being valued, especially if it's taking a while to get somebody to closing or something like that. So yeah, yeah. Okay, well, so that's kind of fun. I never thought about the fact that I was probably kind of running it a very
yeah,
similar way that you are. So
yeah, that's
very
awesome.
cool. Yeah. So since this is a podcast that's also about motherhood and being a mom and all of the things, how did restructuring your team kind of help you better manage your time and your family life? Because I imagine if you were selling at one point, like you said, what, 76 houses in a year, you probably didn't have a whole lot of balance back then.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was, I would say, between 76 and even 120 up until, I mean, last year was sort of the exception. That's when things started to wane, but even then I'm pretty sure I was over 60.
Wow.
Um yeah, so I I've always tried to have a good balance. I only have one kid. So, I mean, I think it's a little maybe easier. I just brought him with me. And I'm glad I did because he has that entrepreneur mindset. He, he has multiple businesses. He's 13. We're downtown, and so he'll go to the businesses. Can I wash your windows? He sells eggs because he has chickens, and
Oh
he
my
has
gosh.
aspirations to have a lawn mowing business soon, and like next year maybe. But yeah, and he has animals and those things. Anyway, so I'm really glad I brought him with me because he has a pretty good understanding of how things work. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I mean, he was just with me all the time. Now, what I did wrong was I was on my phone a lot. I was like, hold on, I'm in a meeting. And so the micro team, but also before that, I started to get really good about my calendar. I got really good about my boundaries. I got more comfortable with not taking every call, not treating everything like it's an emergency, really requiring people to work around my schedule, my time in a respectful way. Not like, oh, I'm never available. I would try to make sure I was at least, I had a structured time of when I was able to show and things like that. But just the boundaries piece helped so much. And then with the micro team, where it really helped was because I had that showing agent. And also, I've just been kind of spoiled with the micro team because I've had somebody doing the transaction, somebody handling all my listings. And at the moment, I'm doing most of those things. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh, it's such a weight. I don't know how I ever did it. So I've posted a job so I want to rebuild again.
Oh
So
my gosh, that's exciting.
yeah.
So, yeah, kind of talking about boundaries, maybe a follow-up question would be, so like what did that kind of look like for you? Was it certain days, certain times of the day? Were you even time blocking like when you responded to texts and phone calls? I'm more just curious, maybe because I know I have gotten significantly better over my career at those boundaries. I've actually talked previously on my podcast about how I have my voicemail set up to say that from 4 to 6:30 I'm not available because that's when my kids get off the bus and we're making dinner, and not that every night works out that way, but for the majority of them, that's what I wanted to establish. And I was so scared to change my voicemail back in 2020 when I did that. But people have really respected that boundary. I will even sometimes get, like a lead that will call and say, "Hey, I'm interested in such and such property. I listened to your voicemail. Just give me a call back after 7 p.m." And it, when I tell agents that, sometimes they're like, oh my gosh, there's no way I could do that. Like people would totally just go talk to the next agent, down the street. And it's like, I just don't think that that's true. So do you mind just kind of sharing like what those boundaries have really looked like for you in more detail?
Yeah, so I try to address the boundaries like in my consultation, in my listing consultation or my buyer consultation. And like for buyers, for example, I'll let them know I'm able to show these days and times, and I don't show on Sundays. I mean, as an example. And I also let them know I have a showing agent. So if I can't show, then she's available these days and times. The other thing, and this is why the micro team is so beautiful. If everybody has a position on your team, the only thing I'm really showing up for is that buyer presentation, listing presentation. So that I put on my calendar, I use Calendly as available. And so I know, all right, Mondays, I'm typically available a little later, maybe like till 7. This is how it used to be. My schedule's kind of changed now, but Mondays and Fridays were my late days. And then I made myself available on Saturdays. And of course, during the day, um, I was available during the day throughout the week for those type of appointments. So when my ISA would book an appointment or somebody would just call me and want to talk, I would send them a link to my Calendly and they would choose a time that worked for them. So there was no, oh, I'm not available, or, I didn't really have to give much of an explanation. So it's
Sure.
just like built-in boundaries. The other thing is everything else can be handled by a team member. So the biggest adjustment for a micro team leader is getting out of your own way and allowing someone to help you. And
Yeah.
so I my rule was we're always in a group message. So from the time I sign a buyer, I'm in a group message with my showing agent. From the time I sign a listing, I'm in a group message with my listing coordinator. Any maintenance on either one of those, buyer or seller, should be handled by that team member.
Absolutely.
So I wouldn't jump in to respond unless it was there's an issue or it warranted in a response from me. And because I did originally would jump in and handle things, and what it did was it made my team members feel like I didn't trust them and feel like they didn't have my confidence to do the job.
Sure. Absolutely. I love that. I would love to make my some of my independent agents listen to that, um, because we are trying to kind of structure some things on the team where we may like use a showing agent that can help multiple team members, as kind of as they would like. And I feel like the resounding answer that I get is like, I don't want to kind of give up the control, right? And it's like, at some point you struggle to grow, because I went through this personally. Like you struggle to grow if you're not going to kind of entrust parts of your business to other people. That frees up your time, that allows you to continue to expand, or even go do other things that are important to you, whatever it is. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
A book
funny.
that really helped me was Who Not How. That's a good book. Have you read
That
that one?
is, yes, I have read that one. That one is so good. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. Yes.
And I think it really explains it well, why you don't have to do everything and you shouldn't do everything, and you're probably not the best at everything, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Kind of figure out where do your time talents lie best and focus on those and let somebody else help you with the rest of it. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so I know we're kind of getting wrapped up here, but I did want to ask you just one more question, mostly just about kind of like your area specifically, because I think it is really neat as someone who does a lot more like rural, um home sales. The fact that you have had such a big business year over year, I feel like that is very unique. So how did you kind of end up with such a big, I guess, kind of community? Were there certain things that you did to kind of grow that, over time? Or were there like ways that you networked, different things like that?
Yeah, I have told people like I built my business from moms, because when I just kind of happened that way. When we started the brokerage in 2015, I had been attending MOPS, which is Moms of Preschoolers. Did you
I went to that too.
Have
Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I
probably when I was
Yeah,
pregnant, I
I
started.
I ended up moving um basically to a more rural part of Southwest Iowa, and I didn't know anyone, and I joined MOPS. So that's
Yeah.
how I kind of ended up being able to blow up my business too. Okay, so sorry, keep going.
Yeah, so it's the cool thing. It's just we're so uniquely set up when we're young moms in real estate, because what's happening with those families? Their needs are growing. They need bigger spaces, things like that's the life stage where they're ready to buy and sell. And you get an in with the wife, the mom, that's typically the person that cares the most about the home. And so, and I didn't go in that with that intention. Because I started out when I was pregnant and I was selling insurance at that time. And then I didn't work. I kind of took off the first year that my son was born. And so, yeah, I just wanted it for community. But so I really went into it with genuine friendships. But then whenever they saw I was starting the brokerage, and they were just like, I like you and I want to support you. I know you, you're my friend. And so, yeah, that's definitely it. And then beyond that, obviously trying to do my best for them and then getting referrals, and it just kind of snowballed from there. Yeah.
I love that. And I did the same thing. I just went because at that time we had moved to a new community, about 40 minutes away from where we had lived, and it was very, very small, and I had a 9, 7, and brand new baby, all boys. And I was like, I just need to meet some people that I would maybe have some interest with, and make friends basically, because you wouldn't think 40 minutes is that far from where you've previously been, but then to travel back and forth to visit friends or whatever, it just kind of it ends up seeming like a lot. So yeah, I
Yeah.
absolutely love that.
That's cool. I've heard
Yeah.
other people, other moms, like real estate moms, tell me the same thing about the same program, and I'm assuming it's still going on. But if a mom listening to this says, "Well, there's not that in my area," I mean, you can start your own group. You can start networking. We just have we're just so uniquely positioned as moms to get to infiltrate and have relationships. So it's an awesome season of our life.
Yes, I love that. I love that. Okay, so last question here. What advice would you give to even it can be a mom agent or even just a female agent who's kind of feeling stuck in the grind, but maybe wants to pivot to something that can either help her grow or kind of lean out and align her life better? What kind of advice would you give?
Um, to pivot out of real estate, is that what you're saying?
No, just so that you're not kind of like just absolutely stuck in maybe showing 100 houses and all of it, just the super big grind when you're a solo agent.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think the biggest thing is just be honest with yourself about what you truly are passionate about. Something I've this last year going through a lot of different things, I've had to get in touch with my feelings. And this maybe nobody else struggles with this, but I did. Like, what do I really want? What is it that I really want? What do I want to do? What am I just on autopilot on, you know? So I think that would be the first place I would just ask, what are you working for? What do you really want? What are your true goals? And if you're married, ask your husband, get in alignment on those things. And whatever it is, um, I think it's so important to be able to ask for help. You don't have to do it all. You don't have to be superwoman. You don't have to be a martyr. Um, and besides that, real estate's so not important compared to your peace and your happiness with your family. And so I think that should be a question we all ask ourselves, like, what am I sacrificing for this?
Yeah,
You know?
I love that. I love that. I know I've had to kind of think about that. I feel like I went through this moment a few years ago. I've talked about this on the podcast. I had a business partner when I first started my team, and we went separate ways. And while that was fine, at the year that we did that was the year I had my daughter, who's now almost 4, and I had to kind of take a step back and be like, do I even really want to do this? Was like, what was the reason that I even started a team to begin with? Like, should, I am the breadwinner of our family. And it was kind of like, is that even the right decision for our family, and for myself and my husband, and all those things. So yeah, I hate that sometimes it takes something very life changing to have to sit there and think about that. But yeah, I
Yeah.
agree. That's really good advice. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, thank you so much for coming on and imparting some of your wisdom and experience with us. And yeah, where can people follow you if they would like to follow you?
I'm on Facebook, Jessica Hensley. My brokerage is Heritage Homes Team, brokered by eXp Realty on Facebook, and we're on Instagram as well. And then Real Estate Mega Moms would be the other place. We have a group. So if you are a mom in real estate or really just a female in real estate, anybody can join. So you can just search Real Estate Mega Moms on Facebook and join that. Find us on Instagram. Those are YouTube. We have a podcast that we're gonna kick back up. So yeah, my
Awesome.
name and Real Estate Mega Moms.
Awesome. Yes. Yeah. If you're listening and you are female, definitely real estate mega moms, because that's where I think we first got introduced. And I have loved being a part of that network. And I've even done some of your group coaching programs in the past. So yeah, it's really wonderful.
Um, yeah,
Well,
awesome.
all right. Well, thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening to Roots and Roofs podcast today. If you loved today's episode, please let me know. I love hearing from you on Instagram and Facebook, so feel free to send me a DM or tag me in your stories so I can share it too. If you're looking for more information about today's topic, please visit my website, mahoganyacres.com, and all of the information that is listed in the show notes below. Until next time.